I'll meet you outside in 5 minutes.
Basically, you've got because I got a new book coming out after Christmas called Agent Buried Alive.
Right.
And it's,
what's the significance of the title?
Because a lot of my programming went on underground. I was kind of like buried alive.
Like, what do you mean by underground? Literally?
Literally in bases.
And what were those bases?
The AL499 in Berkshire. Grew up just near the base.
Right. Now, that's what we've learned, being told by Barry King, is the Peasmore base.
Peasmore, that's it, yeah, Peasmore base. And also the CLC1 facility underneath Westminster.
Right.
That stands for Compartmented Learning Centre 1. That's where they have a lot of remote viewers, remote influencing. I was there in '94.
I mean, we've always been told that the Americans and the Russians had all this remote viewing stuff, and the British really never did anything. So, can you elaborate about that?
Well, the CLC1 base is and the AL499 Peasmore, they're run by the NSA, which is American intelligence. But the
what's the NSA doing right underneath, London?
I think they're in control of a lot of the bases in different countries.
How do they get control of how do they get control of bases in other sovereign states? I mean, we're meant to be an independent state.
Right.
How does that?
From my understanding, it was the National Security Act in 1947. Britain was part of that.
Yeah.
So I think everybody handed their ultimate powers over to the American government in the National Security Act, whoever was part of that. And I know Britain was part of the National Security Act in 1947.
I mean,
I think when it comes to military bases, the Americans are running it in this country. Like I say, the CLC1 underneath Westminster is controlled by the NSA.
How far underneath Westminster? And is it part of a larger complex underneath Westminster?
Yeah, you've got to understand, Mars, when I was taken in the base, I was always drugged.
Right.
When I was in there. And so the memories of actually going in there are very blurry. I remember when I was in the base, there's a connection to another base underneath Parliament. That supposedly got reptilians and greys in. Because there's a very powerful remote viewer that I know who's remote viewed the base underneath Parliament. And has said he saw greys, reptilians there. I've seen non-human entities in bases over the years.
When you say the non-human, you're not necessarily saying an alien, they're just not.
I saw strange animal types of creatures in cages. Possibly this is a continuation of Nazi super race projects, genetic creations, because I know one of the sub-projects of Mannequin that I was involved in was called the Tigris program.
Yeah.
And in that they were taking modified animal DNA and injecting it into remote viewers, genetically enhanced espionage agents.
Right.
Okay, what have I seen? I've seen a lot over the years. First memory was in 1981. I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I was at school in London. This is the middle of 1981. I was driven up to the Greenham Common entrance in a Ford Sierra.
Yeah.
And there was two guys in the front seat, and we drove up to the gates. The gates opened, and one of the guys turned round and said to me, "They keep nuclear weapons here." And from my understanding, that's actually a front. It's a mind control operation, kidnapping children. This was in the middle of 1981 when I was taken in there. I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
Basically, the gates opened, and we drove in. Drove along, and we drove down an underground road there. That's codenamed the Bravo entrance to the AL499 base. Drove down quite far to an underground car park, underground, and got out, and there was a group of 15 other children there. We were kind of huddled in the corner. But there's actually a military truck parked opposite.
Yeah.
They're quite a big one, and then there was two. You have a car park, you have a man in a booth, and he presses the button when the things come up.
Yeah.
There was two of them, because it was a two-lane road underground. There's one on each road. And they went further underground. Once the things open, they let you in.
Yeah.
But we were, 15 children, we were all huddled in the corner and given blankets. and then there was a door on the right, and we were taken in the door on the right by military officers. We were taken in, and it was like went through a corridor, and there was like a classroom set in there, tables and chairs, and we sat down. We were all sat down. We were given like puzzles, like geometrical shapes to put together.
Yeah.
And what they were doing there is we were all identified psychics, because it was the Project Oak Tree in the 50s, was before Project Mannequin. That was a genetic bloodline study, and that was run from Harwell Genetics Labs in Oxfordshire.
Yeah.
And that
Which is also connected to this basement.
Yeah, that's the Delta entrance.
Yeah.
Harwell, that goes down to the AL499.
Harwell's where the Rutherford Appleton left the laboratory.
Yeah, the genetics labs. Yeah. But the Harwell genetic study was called Project Oak Tree, and that was connected into all the major hospitals in the country. It still is. They're still looking for psychic children.
In other words, they're marking their medical records to check who's what.
Yeah.
How do they do that? Do you know how they do that? Is there any mechanism?
I'm not exactly sure how they do it.
So you don't know what to look for in your medical records to see whether you're being identified as a...
Well, Barry King says it comes up on your records that you're part of a government genetic survey, but it doesn't say what that survey is. And all your medical records are actually routed through the NSA, through Harwell. Basically, they're looking for blue bloods, children of these bloodlines. Basically, I think you've got the reptilians have high degrees of copper in their blood, so actually it comes out blue.
Right.
And it's people with rhesus negative, they have massive amounts of copper in their blood. They process oxygen. They process a lot more oxygen in the blood than the rhesus positive, and rhesus negative is very rare. It's about 4 or 5% of the population.
Yeah.
And then the amount of oxygen you can process in the blood, that determines psychic ability. It's like in yoga and Tai Chi.
Yeah.
Processing the oxygen in the blood, that develops psychic abilities.
Yeah.
So basically these bloodlines are naturally psychic. Again,
because we're running a low oxygen level atmosphere now. The Earth's atmosphere is much lower in oxygen than it used to be.
Right, because they're trying to dampen down everyone's psychic abilities and bring the New World Order in. So people aren't aware of it. The group of children that I was programmed with were all descendants of the tribe of Dan.
Yeah.
Again, just to explain a little bit about them, they come out of the Middle East at the time of the Exodus.
Yeah.
They went up to Greece with the Spartans, I mentioned that, and they went up to France and other places in Europe. They were the Merovingian kings there, and other royal bloodlines. From there they travelled up to Great Britain and Ireland in America.
Yeah.
In Ireland they were known as the Tuatha De Danann kings there. In America their symbol's an eagle, and that's the symbol that the American coat of arms, the national security agency, is the eagle. It's the tribe of Dan. Basically this group, this genetic group, we were all descendants of the tribe of Dan. So I'm seeing a lot of this, a lot of the sub-projects of Mannequin in films and in X-Men comics. They're taking bits out of it. Basically.
Can you know about anything current?
Yeah, there's just a new X-Men comic come out called The Tomorrow People. The Tomorrow People is
Tomorrow People was, of course, a psychic TV program back in the 1970s.
Right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they called the Tomorrow People, and they were enhanced psychic people.
Right.
And there was a science fiction.
Right.
Called that very name, the Tomorrow People.
Right. Because basically the Tomorrow People was the name of the project at the CRC-1 base underneath Westminster. It was the remote viewing project.
Yeah.
It was called the Tomorrow People.
And they had special psychic ability and, well, continue.
But yeah, the remote viewing and remote influencing.
It's an example of television, children's television being used to actually inform of current secret projects. There's no other way you can find out.
Well, basically you've... I don't know whether it's part of a public education program to get people slowly desensitised to it, or possibly it's just an inside joke by the NSA. You know, they're saying, oh, you know, we're putting it right in your face what's going on, you're too dumb, you can't even notice.
Yeah, I think it's more like
I'd probably go with the latter.
Yeah.
But I mean, these NSA guys that have helped me. Basically, I signed a contract with one of them, an NSA non-disclosure agreement. I can show you a copy of it at some point. But on Section 5, it says any classified information that you're given, if you create any films or books, comics from it, you have to give a percentage to the National Security Agency.
Oh, so they'll let you talk about it, provided they get a hand. So it's not like the Official Secrets Act.
It's like an American version of the Official Secrecies Act, yeah, basically.
You do talk about being under royalty.
Yeah, basically, yeah. You know, like I said, they're putting out a lot of these real black projects in films, and you know, it's
on the basis nobody really believes it, and it's just a film.
I've seen certain things over the years which I don't feel comfortable talking about now.
Right.
But I do know 100% they've got this biowarfare weapon.
So if you had a suitcase or something, you open it up, it would blow up in your face or something like that?
I don't know how it works exactly. But I know it could possibly just be an airborne thing come out. But I don't know 100%, but I know what it does. I know the effects. I've seen the effects of it in a biowarfare test.
Permanent? Is it a permanent thing?
Permanent, yeah.
It affects the brain?
Affects the brain.
There's a nerve gas of some kind?
I don't know exactly what it is, but I know I've seen the effects of it in a biowarfare test in Project Mannequin.
Is that on a film or in real people?
No, I've seen real people, a biowarfare test.
And those people are...
Those people, they were possibly homeless people. They were locked in a room, in a sealed room. I get really twitchy talking about it.
Can you identify any other kind of experiments like that, whether you use people like that?
I saw, over the years, this was basically, I went through 4 military abductions last year.
Last year?
Last year,
that's the year 2006.
2006.
Military abduction or in my lab?
Yeah, my lab.
Can you describe what happened in those?
Four different ones. I've gone through quite a few my labs over the years, but I've never gone through 4 in a year before. Basically, they needed to get certain genetic procedures in place before my 30th birthday, because when you hit 30, you start to get a lot of your memories back.
Right.
I think neural pathways open up in the brain.
So is that how you're able to talk about this now?
Yeah, I still get really twitchy talking about things, certain things I've seen over the years.
I think if you can concentrate on what you personally witnessed, that would be good.
Okay. In one of the military abductions towards the end of 2006, what's actually happened, how I know some of the bases I was at. One of them I was at the Monsoon 1 facility.
Which one?
Monsoon 1, below RAF Lacanheath, it's about 9 miles of London. I was there in a place called the Proteus Labs.
That's the Proteus Labs.
That's what they called it.
It's called Monsoon 1.
Monsoon 1.
Underneath
RAF Lacanheath, yeah. Basically, how I got to these places was because I'm implanted. I'm still under a lot of mind control, but I can be triggered to do things, and I'll go and do it against my will, and I won't remember doing them afterwards.
Yeah.
So I have vague memories
like
of it.
a Manchurian candidate?
Yeah, that's what Project Mannequin is, to create Manchurian candidates. Yeah. So basically...
what kind of implant are you talking about? Are you talking about these little tiny things? Or?
Cranial implants. I've got one little implant here on the back, one on the right hand side. There's actually a wire. It's a copper wire that goes around, connects to the implant there.
Right.
Got no, it's actually it's next to my jaw there.
Right.
A little bio monitor there. Right. Possibly other things I don't know about.
Is there any way that can be verified by X-ray or anything?
I'm looking to get private X-ray some point, and I want these to.
Or is the material that's being used some kind of material which isn't metallic, so it's very close to body tissue, so it's not visible on X-ray?
I think some of it is like crystal and body tissue, but I know some of the implants do show up on X-ray and others don't, so I have to wait and see. Well, I was getting, a few years back, I was getting really bad nosebleeds and intense headaches that were ruining my life. I couldn't watch TV, and I had to sit in a dark room every night for about 3 months at night because light would hurt my eyes. And
is that like a shingles effect that hurts your eyes?
no, it was a nightmare. I felt like kind of drills were going into my eyes. It was like ruining my life. Some real heavy painkillers. And basically, went for an X-ray, but they wouldn't show me the results of it. And then after that, this plastic material came out my nose, and I was blowing it. It stayed there, but then it disintegrated a couple of days later. But it was like hard plastic, and once that came out, the pain, the pressure went. But I mean, possibly where this stuff is happening and these procedures are taking place is, for instance, the Proteus labs, the genetics labs on Deep Monsoon 1. Basically, what happened at the end of 2006, this is around August, it was the latter part of August. Something happened at the beginning of August as well, but I'll concentrate on this. Fell asleep at 2:30 in the morning. Woke up 45 minutes later, got dressed, headed out the front door, down to the local cliffs in the middle of nowhere. Basically, there was a firefly waiting for me, black triangle disc, which is a abduction craft.
And that's the British version of the Stealth.
Yeah.
But it hovers.
Yeah, a very small craft.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, I'm walking up a ramp on there. There's all special forces guys on it, dressed in black uniform with no insignia on it.
Yeah.
And I went in, and there's a ramp at the back. I walked onto it. It was like the main section's like this, and there's 6 seats on each side. They face each other like a military plane, like a passenger jet on board, like a military plane, opposite each other. And then at the front there's a cockpit with 2 seats in it. And I took my place down on the right hand side at the end. I was in like a trance sort of drug state by then, so I was under a lot, triggered to do that. And took off, flew, didn't see where we were going. Aimed out.
Windows inside this thing?
The only window is at the front of the cockpit, and there's no door. But I couldn't. When you're in the lot of things, you can't turn your head. You can only look a certain direction. It's like you're you're like a robot under total control. And then we went down. Next thing I know was we're in a room, large room. There was a cage on the left-hand corner, and I could see the side of the bars, but I couldn't look to see what was in the cage. And then there was basically there was a door there and a door there. There's basically a door on the right-hand side there, and there was 3 scientist types in white lab coats, and there was 2 other people, and we were lined up against the wall like this. Yeah. And there was another room just next to it on the left. We were taken in, and there were 3 pods in that room lined up. They looked like kind of small telephone boxes, but they were humming with like ELF, like radio waves, like that. And they took the woman that's next to me, she was about 40, blonde hair. They took her, and as the pod was, as it was humming, as she was getting led to it, she started to seem to be having an orgasm, and started to get really sexually aroused. And as she got in, she was begging to be put in it. As she got closer, and through my research, I found they've got these machines that artificially enhance an orgasmic state. Well, basically, psychic energy and sexual energy is one and the same. So they're increasing sexual energy, and that increases the psychic energy. Yeah. That's basically it. And then they put her in. She was in it for about a minute, then they took her out, and then they put me in it. Yeah. Took me out, and then the doctor said to me, we've just installed a Proteus program into you. And these are the Proteus labs. That's what he said. Because in a lot of the military abductions, they explain to me what's going on while they're happening. They tell me what's going on. They say this is called this. We're in this place.
So what is the Proteus project or the program they put into?
It's like a super soldier project. Proteus is a Greek word and means the first of a kind.
Yeah.
They're creating like a new race of sleepers, Manchurian candidate of psychic abilities. They want to use them for the New World Order. They're waiting to go into action. Certain things happen, and then just after we came out the pods, we were taken into the room, and the scientist walked over to the door on the right and opened it, and brought out these deformed humans, like horrible genetic sort of lumps on their head and like sort of elongated arms, things like that. They were human, they weren't aliens, they were just genetically deformed. And then we were up against the wall again, and they brought them in front of us, and the doctor said to the one that was opposite me, he said, you have to go close to his face and speak to him in his face, or he will go into denial that this is happening and the programming won't take properly.
Right.
So this deformed human come close to my face, started swearing at me in my face, and I could speak English, and like had a British accent.
Yeah.
And I was trying to shout, like tell it to fuck off.
Yeah.
But I couldn't speak. Like this, I was like paralysed. I couldn't speak. And basically these deformed humans, they look like John Merrick, the Elephant Man. And after this experience happened, I started researching what Proteus means. I'd never heard the word before. And I found out that it's a Greek name, it means the first of a kind. And then
this is August of 2006.
Yeah, latter part of August. Yeah. And they look like John Merrick, the Elephant Man. So I started researching a bit about John Merrick, and I found out that his condition was called the Proteus syndrome, and it had been coined by a Jewish doctor. And this is what these things look like. And then Barry King told me that RAF Lacanif is connected to the Project Mannequin. You know, the base there, they take a lot of the people there for programming genetic enhancements. And I said, I spoke to an NSA contact, and I said, I was in the Proteus labs. I was taken there by aircraft. In 2006, I said to him, where's the Proteus labs? And he checked his computer and he said, it's a facility called Monsoon 1. Yeah. And I said, where's Monsoon 1? Because that's underneath RAF Lacanif. And then Barry King had told me RAF Lacanif is part of Project Mannequin.
So that's one of the 4 abductions last year.
Yeah. Basically, there was harassment in in the evenings by MIBs.
What do they look like?
These were just, again, special forces guys that were dressed in black uniforms with no insignia on. The same guys the same type of uniforms I saw the guys in the Firefly wearing. I stayed at a friend's in Southampton just before this, and we stayed in a jewellery shop. He's got a jewellery shop there. We stayed there, and we were there, and we were going off, like looking at military bases and like off sort of orb, taking photographs of orbs and stuff like that. And I left, and that night he was asleep in the shop, and these 2 guys in these black military uniforms stood outside his shop, and they what they were doing was he's got these metal shutters in front of his shop, and they're not electronically controlled. You have to pull them up and down with your hands. And they were standing there, and they were using some sort of psychic abilities, and they were lifting the shutters up telepathically. The shutters were standing there, and the shutters were coming up and then going and crashing down, and coming up and going and crashing down.
What age of people were these?
The two guys.
Yeah.
One of them was really big. One of them was about 6'3", like really muscular. He was a white guy. They said they're around their 30s. Another guy was smaller, Asian. And but Sahel was asleep. But what happened was all the neighbours came out. 'Cause it's a small little Asian community in Southampton, and all the neighbours came out. And what's the noise about? And there ended up 40 neighbours outside the shop. When all the neighbours come out, these guys slipped off, but the shutters carried on coming up and coming down, and they did that for an hour, just going up and down themselves. And then the police ended up getting called, and the police were trying to get everyone to calm down because everyone's freaking out. It's like quite a Muslim religious community. Everyone's really freaking out. And the police said, no, these are on electronic shutters. They've got to be. And they said the battery should run out because it's been doing it for an hour now. And they said, no, there's no electronic control. You can only do it by hand because this isn't right. And
you told them this?
No, this was the neighbours said this to the police. Yeah, because they know my friend. Yeah. They could go in the shop. They carried on for about 2 hours, going up and down, slowing down. In the end, it stopped, and they went. And then the police came to my friend's next day, and were asking him questions. And then they checked the camera, CCT, and the video footage had shut down. The time the two guys in black come outside, and then my friend was all freaked out. He went to stay at his mum's, and then the next night they got a report of another disturbance outside, and the police pulled up in a van, and there was 4 mummies outside the shop dancing. 4 mummies in like proper mummies outside, like in a circle dancing outside the shop. And the neighbours, there was about 20 eyewitnesses, saw the mummies outside the shop. And they danced for about 10 minutes. The police were too scared to get out of the van. That's in front of the shop. Then they just went poof and just disappeared. In my understanding, that's like NSA hologram, Project Bluebeam. It's like psychological warfare stuff. They use a lot of holographic stuff. Just disappeared. In my understanding, that's like NSA hologram, Project Bluebeam. It's like psychological warfare stuff. They use a lot of holographic stuff.
Could you explain more about Project Bluebeam?
It's the holograms. You can project a group of people
into the mind or into.
You can project it. Holographic technology. Project a group of people walking on there, and they'll look solid, 3-dimensional. They'll be holograms.
Where would the projectors be housed in order to do this? I mean, with the projector,
possibly
do they have to set things up first?
I don't know exactly where it's projected from. Possibly satellite, possibly a van part somewhere. I don't know, but I know the holograms are very realistic. Yeah, I just basically. Project Mannequin, a lot of it is about harnessing radio waves, brain waves, and it's about sending them out through televisions, mobile phones and mobile phone masts. Yeah. It's like they're sending out frequencies because everybody's got a telepathic receiver, like a radio receiver, the pineal gland in the brain.
So they're using the broadcast communications system as a mechanism for mind control or mind implantation of ideas or what?
Yeah, but what they're doing is they're dampening down the consciousness. They're, to put it, my main message is about the missing children and about the children that are being abused and satanically murdered in the facilities. So basically they're taking children into the bases, because there's like 25,000 children go missing a year in this country. And what they're doing is they've got brain implants, and they're ritually murdering them. They're like,
what kind of ritual?
They're cutting their throats, they're cutting their hands off. They're things based around that in rituals. And at the time of death, they're recording the brain waves of the children onto a computer.
How are they doing that?
By radio wave, because brain waves and radio waves are the same thing. So at the time that they're recording those frequencies from the brain implant onto a computer, And then what they're doing is they're sending that radio wave, that frequency, out through phone masts, through satellite and TVs, sending it out, and it's causing the crime rate to go up. It's causing people's anxiety levels to go up. And what they can do is they can, it's causing sexual abuse, drug abuse, alcohol abuse to go up. And what they can do is, by the means of death, they murder the children, they can attack the population's chakras. So when they cut a child's throat and record that type of death from that frequency from their brain implant onto the computer, they send that out, and that stops people being able to talk to each other properly from the heart. It's in fact.
Do you think this child
that's jogging past the woods there a couple of weeks before, like every night, and on about four separate nights, he had screams coming out of the woods. This was even before the two children were found, and then the military sealed the area off. And then, like in the New Forest, there's children's bodies being found there, with the skin removed and things like that.
It's like the mutilation?
Yeah, and like eyeballs removed. Basically the lymphatic system removed, like the tongues, the eyeballs, the genitalia. Well, these, I'm connected to an intelligence group called Group 5A. It's part of British intelligence, connected to the United Nations. They basically, a few years back, they were up in the Brecon Beacons area, and there's an underground NSA base underneath Brecon Beacons. They were...
so the experimentation base there, is that right?
Yeah, Brecon Beacons. They were around the area, and they were being called to the scene of camper vans around the area. People were missing and disappeared from the camper vans. And they basically got called to one scene, and there'd been two bodies found, a young boy and a young girl there. And they went to the scene, had to seal off the area, military style. And their eyeballs had been removed, half the skin was missing, tongues, genitals, and basically the Group 5-8 guys showed the photographs to a friend of mine, and he was a researcher who was meant to get the story out. But then he had his house burned down after that.
Who is doing the mutilations? Is it part of the government program or what?
The information that I've got, I'd go with its factions in the Greys and the reptilians that are working with the NSA and the bases. I think they're harvesting the lymphatic system, and this gets into like the Dulce material, where Greys have been seen in vats with human body parts being mixed around. They're basically absorbing the protein mixture through osmosis through their skin. I think they've got some kind of genetic disorder that the digestive system doesn't work properly.
So are the Greys and the reptilians based here? Is, like a Dulce facility here?
Well, Barry King says he saw Greys and reptilians at the Berkshire base.
You've seen things?
I've never seen any Greys or reptilians at the base. I've seen things that look like small kind of gargoyles, and they were wearing robes. But they weren't Greys.
And do you think that they were actually earthly based, genetically altered human beings, or do you think they were actually what's your opinion of what those beings were? How many did you see?
Well, I saw 3 of them. I mean, that's a long story in itself. You can go into that if you want.
Yeah, well, we've got a couple of minutes if you can allude to it.
Okay, that was basically... well, in 1981, when it was taken through Greenham Common, I saw things in cages like large wolves or dogs there. But I think they were genetic creations, military creations. But these things, basically, this was on the 4th of August last year. Again, I went out again down to the cliffs, and there was Firefly waiting for me again. This has been happening for years. It turns out, under hypnosis, I've gone out regularly and met them. I think it was
It was a good idea to set that up as a surveillance point and catch it on film one night.
Yeah.
Does it happen in daylight or in
No, not late at night. And there's been a lot of activity in my house bedroom. Small greys appearing, reptilians appearing. But now I can't even sleep in the house by myself. I'm like 30 years old.
Are they projected? Like mannequin? Are they blue beam projections? Or?
That's what I thought, but these seem very real. They could be holographic projections. They seem very real. I've seen.
So you had those abductions last year. What about this year?
It's been close encounters at night. Small greys, tall greys, reptilian. The PLFs have got the round eyes, and the real greys have got the oval eyes.
Yeah.
The ones I've seen in my bedroom have got the oval eyes, and then wake up paralysed. And you're trying to shout or move, but you can't. And the situation's got so bad. This is happening once every couple of weeks. I'm seeing something in the room.
Is there any way that you can record that, leave a camera running? Or
yeah, I've wanted to get some camera set up. I've wanted to actually take a Geiger counter because I can see radio waves. I can physically see radiation because that's part of my training, Project Mannequin. I can tune my eyes in like a digital camera, and there's very high levels of radiation in the room.
Yeah.
But what this is called non-ionizing radiation. Yeah, that's it. This is non-ionizing radiation. It doesn't get in your cells and make you sick. What they're doing is they're using extremely high frequency radiation and punching a hole, possibly from underground bases, and then coming into the room.
Now, just for the record, we're in Cornwall.
Yeah.
So you're talking about everything happening here in Cornwall.
Around Cornwall in St Ives, yeah.
St Ives.
I think Project Mannequin has a life plan for you. Every school you go to, every university, everywhere you live, it's planned by the project for you. And I think they wanted to have me down here in the middle of nowhere by the cliffs, because as I say, I've regularly gone down to the cliffs late at night and been picked up in military abductions.